Sarah, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I haven't turned on my video, so I'm going to put myself on mute till we get a little more organized, and I'll just be
Uh,
on until
yes.
question.
I'm gonna try to, we're gonna adjust your volume here.
Okay, I might be able to
Oh,
adjust it on
there
my
you
end.
Nope, we just did it on our end and that's better.
Okay, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes.
I can hear you loud and clear as well. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute myself so I don't interrupt people.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. About one more minute tonight and we'll get started. Well, welcome everybody. It is 6 o'clock, so I will call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. Please join me for a flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Assembly of the City and Borough of Sitka would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional first people of Sitka. With gratitude, we proceed on Tlingit Ani. Sarah, roll call, please.
Mayor Eisenbeis,
Present.
Mr. Mosher,
Here.
Mr. Pike,
Here.
Mr. Yestad,
Here.
Mr. Christensen.
Here.
Ms. Carlson. Here. Mr. Celine.
Here.
And as requested by the Assembly, Mr. Michael Gaddy is on the line tonight as attorney for us. So if we have any legal questions, we can definitely refer to him. And we will be referring to him on a later issue tonight for a little bit of guidance. So any other correspondence or agenda changes? All right, no ceremonial matters. That'll bring us to special reports. Chairman Woody Woodmark is here to give us a government to government report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Assembly members. I have a report of the two meetings. I missed a report last month, May 15th, that we had, and I wasn't here for your meeting. So I'll give you an update on the May 15th meeting that was held with the Tribal Council. Our usual step that we went through, we had enrollment resolutions and relinquishments also. Council approved the resolution nominating Lisa Gassman for a Government Accountability Office Tribal and Indigenous Advisory Council position. The council approved a letter to Clinton Hyder regarding hearing survey and tribal sovereignty. And approved a resolution approving STA's application to Department of Health and Human Services Social and Economic Development Strategies for Alaska grant in an amount of $900,000. In our June 19th meeting that was held, we also had a work session with BHA for about an hour before our regular council meeting. again, let's see, we had enrollment. We approved a recommendation to appoint Mr. Brady to the Cultural Resources Committee. Approved a letter of support to add 3 seats to the Federal Substance Board nominated Federal Subsistence Board. And this one, I just sent a text to Lisa Gassman and Ann Davis, the council, just sent to Sarah, that will give a copy to the mayor and the assembly members regarding that the council approved the Crescent Harbor Park rehabilitation letter. That was approved. We had 3 resolutions regarding BHA. Then I expressed, well, we had a work session before, but we had 3 action items. We revised our Indian housing plan, and for the amount of 1.4 million. The council also approved the BHA under 25 Indian housing plan. That was up to 1.9 million. And this is the one I liked. Approved a resolution authorizing BHA to submit a Indian Housing Community Development Block Grant to provide funding to the Sitka Homeless Coalition in an amount of 1 million. And the council also approved a resolution authorizing the submission of the application to receive annual Tribal Victim Services Society set funding in the amount of $212,000. And also the council, after persons to be heard, gave a letter of support to Mr. Huey regarding the Sitka Community Land Trust. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Tribal Council sounds like it's been busy the last couple months. Good thing the summers are long. You have all night long. Is anyone else here for government to government this evening? Municipal boards, commissions, committees? Municipal departments? School district? Students and guests. That'll bring us to persons to be heard this evening. This is public participation for any item off of tonight's agenda, not to exceed 3 minutes for any individual.
Well, good evening. My name is Richard Wien, and I'd like to say welcome to Sitka, the island paradise, where all of our goods and services rely upon fossil fuels. Now, gasoline is one of the most energy-intense liquids on this planet, and it is just an amazingly wonderful thing. And I know how amazing it is because when I go wander around town, especially on busy tourist days, I see all the buses and I see all the cars and I see all the boats, and especially pedal to the metal. I have a view of the ocean and I can see, a lot of water spouting and just people going very fast. And they do it because of the wonder of gasoline. And I'm so happy that everybody here is so involved in sustainability and so forth, because all of this relies on gasoline. And I am a supporter of gasoline and I am a supporter of drilling, but it's sometimes forgotten how much we use it. The other thing is that, I don't know whether people paid attention, but on June 9th, actually my brother's birthday, the Saudi Arabians did not renew their petrodollar deal with the United States. Now, that was a deal that they signed 50 years ago to make exchanges in oil utilizing the dollar. So Saudi Arabia is heading to BRICS. And what do you think that might mean for our economy? And everything is trickle down. So this kind of stuff can have very real implications for Sitka's economy, which is totally out of our hands. Another thing which I think is very important, I had the honor to know somebody who I held in great esteem, and actually I met this individual pretty much when I first got here to Sitka almost 24 years ago, and that is Judy Johnstone. I remember her coming to my office. I really didn't know who she was, and we had this fantastic talk, and I remember how honored I felt that she, at that time, would seek me out. And while she was out and about and running around, we had many nice conversations. So I'd like to offer condolences and to may she rest in peace. So as far as economics go, I only have 10 seconds left. I'm sure you've heard that cocoa and coffee got another hit this year based on poor productions, and the prices will go up. Thank you.
There's a button on the very bottom.
I should do
Perfect,
this more
thank you.
often. Sure. I'm Cammie Hutchins. I'm a nurse and nurse practitioner. My background is in public health and fairly new, I think I can say, to Sitka. It's been 2 years, so I think until I hit 40, I'll be considered a new person. I moved from Anchorage, Alaska, and part of my job was working at the health department and having staff meetings about safety issues. And I'm really concerned about our safety of our street out here with all the buses and the people coming across. I walk that strip very often. And just now when I was walking home from work, I had a family of about 10 family group of beautiful people that were headed for the buses. And they were right, traffic was coming. I've almost hit someone, and that's why I'm here to speak. And I think the terrible thing that has happened in Anchorage is that until a child is killed, do we address an intersection and a problem? So I just want to ask the assembly to put up signage or make some decisions. I stood 2 days ago on just the corner and took some photos, and just wonderful people that are here visiting our town really don't look either way. They step right out in front of the buses, right out in front of the cars. I know there's a commission that is looking at some of these things, so I'm hoping that that will be addressed. Thank you very much.
Anyone else for persons to be heard this evening? Seeing none, that'll bring us to consent agenda. And I'd like to pull item A. Alpha, correct?
All right, I move to approve the consent agenda consisting of item B, approving a retail marijuana store application for Weed Dudes Incorporated at 1321 Sawmill Creek Road, Suites J and K. And C, approve of following marijuana license renewal applications, standard marijuana cultivation facility license for AKO Farms, LLC, doing business as AKO Farms at 1210 Beardsley Way. 2, a marijuana concentrate manufacturing facility license for AKO Farms. 3, a retail marijuana store license for AKO Farms, et cetera. And 4, a standard marijuana cultivation facility license for AKO Farms. And D, approve a liquor license renewal application for the Longliner Lodge and Suites LLC at 485 Catley Ann Street.
Second.
Say thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any public comment?
Hi, I'm Michelle Cleaver from Weed Dudes. I just wanted to point out that you're approving a retail marijuana renewal application for Weed Dudes. It says on here it's a just an application. It's just a renewal application. That's all.
Thank you, Sarah. Can we check and make sure that that's clerically correct? Thank you. Any other public comment on consent agenda? Sarah?
All right, on the motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of items B, C, and D, Mayor Eisenbais,
Yes.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
and Mr. Pike.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
And Kevin, as deputy mayor, I would ask for recusal on item A. My business does have a business relationship with Northern Lights Indoor Gardens.
Okay, no problem. So we will go ahead and entertain a motion for item A on the consent agenda.
Yeah, I move to approve item A on the consent agenda. Approve a standard marijuana cultivation facility application and standard marijuana retail facility application for Northern Lights Indoor Gardens LLC at 1321 Sawmill Creek Road, Suites MNONP.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment on this one? No, I see none. So we'll come back to the assembly. Sarah?
All right, on the motion to approve item A, Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
and Mr. Celine.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Masterfully handled, sir. Thank you. That'll bring us to unfinished business, item E. John, I understand you've been able to link up to a little bit of research and you have a little bit more info for us at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, Michael Gaddy is available on the line. This is on the halibut bycatch issue and the possibility of joining the amicus brief. I don't want to speak for Mr. Gaddy. He'll be able to kind of walk through the options here. But as you remember, a resolution was passed a few meetings ago, and I believe it was the last meeting that a discussion direction decision item came forward on whether or not to proceed with this brief. So Mr. Gaddy and his firm have had an opportunity to review that. And with that, I can turn it over to him and he can advise the assembly on their options.
Yes, Michael, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Assembly members, Administrator and Clerk. Appreciate your time this evening. Excuse me. And what you have before you tonight is a question of whether to participate in what's known as an amicus brief, which is basically a friend of the court brief. An attorney has prepared a brief and submitted it to you for consideration. I took a look at that brief today, and I had one of my associates look at it as well. And so we discussed what would be some options to address the brief. And the brief is sort of a high level view of the issue of the halibut bycatch. It's a good brief. We haven't had any input into it with respect to specific Sitka issues, but this has come up in a couple of other places. I think Homer and Cordova and maybe some others that I don't know about, as well as Sitka. So the questions before you is what to do. And the options are, excuse me, I've been talking all day, but the options are, have Sitka participate in the amicus, whether my firm becomes a signatory to that brief or not would be one approach, or whether the lawyer can, I don't want to mispronounce his name, Sisoli, I believe, but if I mispronounce, please extend my apologies for that. So there's that, or there's just stick by the reso. Homer decided to just stick by the reso, which presents the case pretty well for the concerns that are expressed by the communities that potentially are affected by this. Additionally, the brief hasn't been accepted by the US District Court yet, so there needs to be a motion for leave to file the brief, and whether the court would accept an amicus or not, of course, would be a legal analysis of the judge and whether anybody in the opposing side and the plaintiff side oppose that. So those are sort of your options. Sign on to the brief, go with the resolution, or a third option, which you may or may not be interested in light of all the legal issues we're facing right now, but would be to prepare a separate amicus brief that's prepared for Sitka specifically. So those are the things that you have before you. And I don't want to misspeak, but Homer went with the reso. John may know this. I think Cordova went with the reso. And so what you guys do is your discretion.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Michael, this is Tor Christensen. So if we stick with the resolution, how would that get before the court?
Well, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Assembly Member Christensen, I believe it's an exhibit to the amicus brief that Mr. Ciccioli has prepared. So that's how it would get to the court. And the presentation in the resolution is pretty close to the arguments that are in the brief itself. And if you were to become an amicus in the case, you're in a federal district court case. Sitka is in a federal district court case, granted in a limited capacity, but you are in a federal district court case. And I had my paralegal pull the court file. The complaint in the case alone is 42 pages. The answer is about 31 pages. There's motions to intervene, and there's a tranche of documents that have already evolved in the case. And I filed an amicus brief in the United Cook Inlet case in Homer. And whether that has any effect or not, I don't know. We believe that we presented good information, fairly good analysis of this particular impacts to Homer on that brief. But Homer deferred from getting involved in an amicus for this issue, instead supporting the idea, but relying upon the resolution. So it's up to you guys, how you want to go.
Kevin?
Hi, Mr. Gotti, Kevin, Assemblymember Kevin Mosier here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for helping us. So yeah, this is different than what I thought. I thought to get before the court, we would have to, file with the amicus brief. So two questions. One, I just want to confirm that if we just did the resolution, it would still, the court would have eyes on it. And then two, if we were to not just go by the resolution and actually sign on with the amicus brief, would we be in any position of liability from any court decision? And then also the other tag-on question is, I'm guessing the expense to us, even if there is no liability with the courts, would be your legal services going through any kind of reviews and any activity within that court case.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. Assemblymember Mosier, good to see you again.
Likewise.
So the questions are, a motion would need to be filed and accepted by the court. Whether that would be opposed by others, I don't know. The legal liability probably is low, and the cost to prepare an amicus brief could be pretty high. Mr. Ciccioli has said he's doing this pro bono, but I think that in my capacity as filling in for Brian for a limited period anyway, I think I would want to see those. I would want to be part of that and work on a detail of the brief. I have not been any part of that, and JDO has not been any part of that at this point. But I can tell you that when we did the Homer amicus, it took a lot of time. There was a lot of research that went into it. And I couldn't cite the attorney fees that took place because I don't remember exactly what they were, but they were a few dollars.
Thank
So
you. That
anyway,
clarified
the question
quite a bit.
is, do you want to get involved in a United States federal district court lawsuit? I don't know what Brian's contact with Mr. Cassioli has been, what they've discussed. And if JDO were to sign on to something like this, we'd probably want to have more input into it. But, you know, there is a brief out there, so I think I answered your question, Assembly Member Mosier.
You did. Thank you very much. And it is a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Follow up on that. So if I'm hearing you correctly, this is Mr. Tor Christensen again. You're not recommending that if we want to side on to not just use Mr. Ciceroli, I guess, brief, you're recommending that we might use some aspects of it, but you're recommending that we shouldn't just, okay, we'll go sign it, go on just using this. Is that correct?
Well, I think that's your decision on what you want to do. You know, the brief mentions a few impacts to Sitka on a high level. And you know, it still has to be accepted by the court. So, and if you were to be involved in that, we'd certainly want to make sure that we had done everything we could to have it accepted. It might be fine the way it is. But the amicus brief we did for Homer, we had some specific impacts to Homer contained in that brief. So, and then the other thing too is for legal resources, Sitka has a lot of general counsel legal issues that are going on and some other issues that are taking place. I'm not going to speak to them specifically here, but you have a lot of, Sitka has a lot of activity taking place, as I'm sure you know what you know very well.
Chris? Yeah, this is Assemblymember Yested here. I guess I'm looking at kind of the first option if we decide to participate with the existing amicus and just sign on to it, but really do nothing else. Do you foresee many hours spent, I guess, on your end, needing to follow the case or participate in the amicus as it kind of moves through its process? Or is this something that we can kind of just sign on to and not really have too many more hours beyond that?
That's hard to say. I would suspect not a whole lot if we're not preparing a brief and those sorts of things. But I can tell you every day I get something from the federal court on the Cook Inlet case. I think there was like 165-page document that got filed today, or in the last couple of days. So, I mean, these cases are not for the faint of heart. I can tell you that. They're pretty aggressively fought.
Yeah, agreed.
JJ?
Hello, JJ Carlson here. Thank you for these three options, Michael. The option one, Sitka as signatory, option two, resolution only, or option three, Sitka does its own amicus brief. If I remember correctly, the filing deadline can kind of make this decision for us. It is this week. I'll call him just Ken because I'll throw one more name in there. I've talked with him over the phone a few times since this packet came out. And he said the version we have is kind of version 2 in the scheme of it. And as of today, he's at version 9 or 10. So it has advanced quite significantly past what we have in our packet and what we're pretty much discussing right now. There are other communities that have resolutions as part of it. And at this draft version 910, they're kind of going without us being a signatory because the likelihood of this happening tonight and the filing deadline getting met with our internal reviews processed seemed unlikely. I believe Ken was wanting a decision by today, so he could file tomorrow or Thursday with the court. And the other communities that have passed resolutions are Petersburg Borough, City of Homer, City of Cordova, the City of Adak, and the City of Soldova, as well as the Kodiak Archipelago Regional Rural Leadership Forum, and some other individuals, and the Cordova District Fishermen United Group. I believe that they're going with the Cordova Fishermen's Group and the Kodiak Archipelago Regional Leadership Council as their main, and then kind of these municipalities as supplement. And I think that is a great strategy. This version was emailed to the Assembly this morning at about 10:30, and I support this. So that would be kind of a resolution only approach from the Assembly tonight.
Scott?
Yeah, and I have, Mr. Mayor.
Scott Cillian has the floor and then we can come to you.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, I didn't see that latest.
Sorry about that. I'm for signing on to it because we're defending 2C, the only place there's no dragging allowed. And I believe that 2C is in play with the negotiations right now to reduce halibut bycatch out west, even stuff we're not talking about. We have an untapped resource that's kept draggers out since 1979, like a $5 a pound white fillet meat, that has not been harvested. And we have a really, we have to sign on. We need to sign on. Thank you.
Michael, you had something further?
I just wanted to say I hadn't seen the latest version of the brief.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. One more question if I can.
Sure.
So Michael, if you were to say your opinion of the effectiveness of the resolution alone or of us signing on to the current Cicerelli, whatever, brief, is there a significant difference in impact on the lawsuit between doing those two things?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's a very good question. And while this is purely speculative and a statement of opinion, to me, I think that the resolution has the same impact from a political perspective or from a legal perspective as the amicus brief does. And that may also have been true in the Cook Inlet case. It's hard to say what stock the court puts in an amicus brief. And typically, it's totally discretionary with the court to accept an amicus brief. And amicus briefs usually aren't filed at the trial court level. They have been in some of these fisheries cases. And it's likely it would be accepted, but I think Urezo has the same strength as the arguments in the amicus brief.
Kevin?
I just wanted to share my opinion based on people's comments and Mr. Gotti's input. This is a hugely important issue, as I'm one of the co-sponsors with Mr. Yestad. I believe in it. And based on the legal advice we have from Mr. Gotti, it feels to me like we should go with just the resolution, because what I'm hearing is that if we sign on to amicus, every time there's input or changes, he's going to have himself or his people billing us hours to look over something that isn't really much of a difference than if we just have the resolution I agree, I think we should save our resources for the pressing legal matters at hand. And those are my opinions, so I think we should stick with the resolution.
Tim?
Thank you. So I guess, I don't see us, if we say no to the amicus brief tonight, I don't see us closing down our options down the road, because I doubt it's going to remain just at this level. So the first decision is going to be appealed. We would then have an opportunity to get involved again. I think, doing a resolution at this point allows us to kind of see where this thing is going, and we can participate again later. So, I think, I can't see either group saying yes to the answer to this and just letting it lay, so.
I guess I can also agree that halibut bycatch is not an issue that's going to be solved in a month. So I can agree with that perspective. I was the supporter of resolution only, but then reminded that there will be many more on-ramps as it develops, because undoubtedly halibut bycatch is a massive issue to Sitka, and I think we should be watching and maintaining an eye on this as it develops in the future. Chris?
I've been really kind of torn on this, kind of due to a lot of our legal, I guess, issues that we're facing at the moment with having to go to outside counsel and the amount of time that this may end up taking. That's just been my biggest concern. I truly believe in this, though, and I would like to sign on, but fully understand everyone else's hesitations here. Yeah, you're right. This won't be solved quickly, but I think this is a big statement that needs to be made and needs to be heard. But yeah, like I said, I understand everyone's hesitation as well. So, yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Tor?
Yeah, I will echo some of what Chris was saying. I've also torn about this, a little bit bouncing back and forth. I'm afraid I agree with Chris, though, because, I mean, this is one where if I lost, I don't think we lose that much, but I think it's the strongest statement we can make. And it's not just the courts that I think we're talking to. We're talking to everybody, every fisherman in town who fishes, who both longlining and salmon. I mean, the bycatch is not just halibut. And so I think it behooves us to make the strongest statement we can. I think the risk is very low, especially if we go ahead with, I'm going to call him Cicerelli, but whatever. But we need to make the strongest statement we can. That said, if it goes against me on that vote, I'm not going to be crying in my beer, but I really think that we should do the strongest we can.
Is there any other comments or action from the assembly on this item tonight? There is no motion on the floor. There is no motion on the floor.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to make the motion for the city of Sitka to join the amicus brief.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the city of Sitka to sign on an amicus brief regarding halibut bycatch. Is there any public comment?
I apologize for that. I have not been here for a long time. Usually don't leave the house this late. My name is Lauren Howard. Thank you for taking the time to see this agenda item through. I am a staff member of the Alaska Longline Fishermen's Association. I'm here for Linda Bangan tonight. She is out halibut fishing, actually. Also, my family owns halibut quota. We fish for halibut commercially and subsistence as well. I really appreciate a lot of the deliberation and the comments that have been heard. I prepared some words and I'm just going to set them aside because after hearing what you guys are talking about, I'm just going to kind of speak from my heart on this. this issue hits really hard for a lot of us, I think, in this community. Our fisheries are a constant threat from many things. And trawl bycatch is definitely one of them. And I think the biggest comment that stood out for me was when Thor said, if this is a statement we want to make, then let's make it. So let's not wait till later. If this is the idea that the city believes in, and this is where the assembly's beliefs are and the community's beliefs are, if you think that the halibut resource is important for the community, then it's important that we make the statement now. My understanding is, and JJ, thank you for the updates you gave, kind of saves part of my speech and what I hope to say. But yeah, Cordova and the Kodiak Coalition have signed on to this. We're awaiting word from Petersburg, Seldovia, and Sitka. My understanding as well is that the resolution doesn't have as much power, doesn't hold as much foot on the ground to the courts. It can't be submitted directly to the court from the community, but to sign on to the brief really puts that message out there. So again, I really do appreciate you taking the time to take this up. This is a very important issue for our community, for our state. And yeah, trawl bycatch is not going to go away. Halibut bycatch is not going to go away, but we really do have to do our best to fight that fight. And I am doing it as best as I can. I participate in the federal fisheries process. I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. with Chris, actually, for doing some advocacy for fisheries. We had meetings with the offices of Sullivan and Peltola. They also are filing amicus briefs in this case. So my understanding is that the legal liability for the city after this is fairly up to their choice. You know, there is not liability to the city by filing this amicus brief, but if you want to follow the case in the event that there is further effect on the city, that's my understanding of how that works. So we have support from our delegation at the federal level, state level, from a lot of our organizations in town, and I just really hope that the city can see that and that you guys can sign on if you're able to. And I understand that the timing is correct. The 27th is our deadline. So it is a very quick turnaround. And if it's reality that from an administrative perspective, that can't happen by that date, then as was stated, that there will be opportunity, I believe, in the future, because I'm sure this will be appealed and appealed because there are deep pockets behind this case, much deeper than us fishermen and us organizations that are trying to fight it. So thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Claudia Lassess, and I'm a lifetime Sitkin and commercially fished for 3 years and really know how difficult it can be to make a living that way with my parents when I was young, and also had done a halibut fishery back in the day with my ex. So I realize how hard that is to make a living with things like that. Now I'm a subsistence fisherman, and this is a result of a tangle with a halibut. But that said, they're still harder and harder to get. So I really support anything that you can do, that you choose to do to reduce bycatch. So thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Richard Ween. Halibut, as well as all fish, are incredible creatures. And one thing that I want to remind the assembly is that males, before they become reproductive, take about 8 years. So when you catch all those chickens, they haven't even gone to the prom yet. Females, as the reverse for humans, mature much later, and it's up to 12 years. And generally, a 50-pound halibut is 6 years if it's a female. So when you troll these things out, you really affect reproductive capabilities. And I think that the amicus brief was quite specific in how important the growing fields in the Bering Sea and so forth are. They've tracked halibut all the way, Alaskan halibut, all the way down to Oregon. So clearly, these are things that affect all of us. And so every once in a while, you're given an easy choice. And to me, the easy choice here is to sign the amicus brief. We've had a very nice pro bono offer from Ken. I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name. And it doesn't get more bono than that. And there is, I don't think, And again, legal advice can say that there will be any cost to the city by signing on to this. I feel that a resolution is a sternly worded letter which will go nowhere. The amicus brief is attached and sent to the court. And so I feel the converse is true. We were told that there are many entrances as time goes on, but the truth is also there are many exits. We don't have to continue this any further. Things seem to get complicated and expensive. And I think this is truly a statement that the city is making. Sitka is a fishing community. Well, we may be a tourist community in the near future, but we are a fishing community. And therefore, with fishing under so much duress in all of the fisheries, I think this is the least we can do. It's not as though we have to rebuild an amicus brief. We have one presented to us. I read it. It was interesting. I am not an attorney, but I play one at the assembly. And I would say, please sign on, make your statement, and then see how it goes. If you're waiting for the smoke to settle, maybe the war will be over. Hey, that's a strategy, or not. Anyway, sign it.
Good afternoon. My name is Austin Cranford. Just for clarification, what I'm about to say is my opinion and does not associate the university in any way. But I do work for the university, and we have a fishery program at the university. We are well aware of the stress on the fishing population, and bycatch does cause stress on the fishing population. The city should sign the brief because, as y'all mentioned, yes, y'all can get into it, but what's going to happen when y'all get into it 3-4 years down the line and the courts are like, well, why weren't you here fighting from the beginning? If the stress continues on the fish, we're not going to have fish to catch because they're not going to be able to reproduce. We're going to have lower and lower quotas. We've already seen it with crab. We've seen it with other fish species. It's becoming a problem. If we allow it to continue, we're going to lose our fishing industry, which I know brings a decent amount of income to the people that live here and to the city. We cannot allow trawlers to continue to trawl for the fish and destroy a resource that people here have depended on for millennia. This isn't including all the other issues, such as foreign countries coming in and fishing where they're not supposed to be, and other issues that are also harming the fish, climate change, so on and so forth. So I agree, you should sign the brief. Thank you.
Any other public comment on signing on to the amicus brief regarding halibut bycatch? Back to the assembly for last round of deliberation. JJ?
I have a question if Laura can come back up, because the list that I listed off was communities that I knew that had resolutions out there, but I think you mentioned other communities that have signed on to the brief. Is that correct? Okay, what were those communities?
Yeah, and you did mention it was
Okay.
the Cordova District Fishermen, and I believe also the city of Cordova. That was what Heather McCarty told me this morning, unless I
Okay.
understood that incorrectly.
Okay.
And then the coalition of communities in Kodiak. I think you had a different name for it. I just understood the name differently.
The Kodiak Archipelago Regional Rural Regional Leadership Forum.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's all the different communities on the island of
Yes.
Kodiak.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have
So
have
that
signed on at this time.
Okay, I wasn't up to speed with Cordova having signed on.
And that was something
Yeah.
Heather told me this morning, that's what I understood her to say. There was the Cordova fishermen, but the city, and then we were waiting to hear from Sitka, Petersburg, and Seldovia.
Okay, thank you, thank you. That mattered to me because once a municipality is in there, then like the template, the format is there in the letter. And that seemed beneficial for us to join something when we don't have to ask our outside legal counsel to start that paperwork. because these are things that attorneys need to sign, not mayors and not administrators. So I think we are in a different dynamic, and perhaps the question goes to you, Mr. Gaddy. Do you have time tomorrow to drop everything you are working on and sign an amicus brief and update it and put language in and review for us here to get it through and to the courts by Thursday?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
No, I do not. Not with everything I have going on. And plus, for me to sign it, it's not my product. And so if it goes forward, it probably would go without my signature.
Thank you.
But you could-
That's
you
very
go with
beneficial.
Mr. Castioli's signature on that. You'd have to engage him. But that's an option for you.
Okay. John, do you have comments on that one? Same topic?
I do on the same topic, and I'm sorry if I'm interrupting here. That was the clarification I was going to ask for. If the body decides to move towards signing on to this brief, as Mr. Gaddy already mentioned, it's not his product, so will the assembly then be joining this and asking Ken to represent the city on this? And if so, I'd suggest that we get some sort of engagement agreement in place that he will be representing the city in this agreement.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This all's really coming together for me now. What the folks who spoke during Persons Heard really touched me. I agree with you. It's extremely important. My concern is more logistics. From what I've heard from Mr. Gaddy, our legal counsel that we know and have had a relationship, the city has for years, a couple decades, I think, is that he feels the resolution has pretty much the same effect. But even if we don't agree with that, as Tim has pointed out, we can add on, or we can engage him later at a different point to add on. My concern is if Mr. Gaddy does not have the time to drop everything, understandably so, to create his own or review and what was prepared. And I'm very grateful for that other Mr. Ken for doing that. I appreciate it very much. But to be honest, we don't really know him. We don't have a relationship with him. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong. It's just when you engage the legal services of someone, it's really important that you have a level of trust. And we just don't know him, and it's just too rushed. I would highly recommend that we vote this down and allow the resolution to move forward as discussed. And then, you know, if people want to bring this forth and get Mr. Gaddy on board, bring that at another meeting and we'll do it separately.
Scott?
Did the pro bono guy do Kodiak and Cordova's signing?
I don't have an answer to that question for you.
Well, then we're all in the same boat. It's the same ocean too. Roll with that guy. If Kodiak's gambling on it and Cordova, that's good enough for me.
Tor?
I was going to say something very similar, that I think that if we said, you know, we pass this and we let Mr. Ciceroli, or however you actually pronounce his name, know that we've approved signing on using using this document, I think that is enough. You know, he's going to have a stack of, hopefully a large stack of similar documents to turn into the court. And if he needs more, he can reach out. But if tonight we say, yes, we want to sign on using this, I think that's enough. I think that we're not, like Scott said, we're not the only ones doing this. And I think that they will accept that and say, all right. And if we have to, you know, temporarily list him as one of our attorneys, that's fine. We do that with other things. Mr. Gaddy has done that for us many times. But I don't really think that's an issue because, like I said, we're not the only ones in this situation, and they're obviously looking for allies. And we need to say loud and clear that we are such an ally. So I think we're looking for trouble or looking for problems that aren't really there, but that's just me.
Tim?
Thank you. You know, I recall that when we passed the resolution, we passed it unanimously. And I think we're really running the risk right here with this particular motion in splitting our voice. And splitting our voice is going to be a lot less powerful, I think, going forward than one where we said we unanimously agree that we are concerned about this issue. And I'm concerned about this issue. We're concerned about this issue. But you know, for me, there seem to be enough questions about this one that I'm doubtful that this is the best way to go forward. That the amicus brief right now at this point in time, without the benefit of knowing the legality behind it and the fact that we can join this thing at a later point, to me, I think we run the risk of splitting our voice as a community, and I am concerned about that.
Chris?
And I definitely hear you, Tim, and I also don't want to unanimously throw it down either, because I think that kind of throws a message as well. But the one thing I feel like the only real hesitation that this body has is due to our council situation right now. Obviously, things have changed drastically here in a month for us. And I feel like no one here is really denying that this is a good thing and really saying that we shouldn't be a part of it. It's almost more we shouldn't be a part of it because of our individual scenario. And I definitely understand that and respect that, and kind of have the same feelings of hesitation and looking towards council that we really don't have a relationship with. I definitely understand that and feel that. I guess I still kind of want to be on the forefront of this one and still sign on. Fully understanding the risk with that. Just because the issues out there are very much real. It's completely anecdotal, but a lot of the fishermen I know that have been out there trying to catch their halibut this year, it is some of the hardest earned halibut that they've had to go for in quite some time. And it's just showing the concern on the stocks. And then accompanying that with our survey boats that we're having problems getting surveys out there. Cod fishing, there is no survey this year, which is kind of unprecedented and scary. There's lots of scariness in the fisheries right now. And I think that there is some pushback against the trawl fleet here lately, even at our national levels with Sullivan and Peltola signing on and then coming up with other legal language for bills, that this is the time that we need to push back as well and have our voices heard, that Alaskans we care about our industry, we care about our resource, and that we want to see the future for other generations. So I guess I'm a little more willing to take the risk. Hesitantly though, but I am willing to take that gamble, I guess.
Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate your comments and your thoughts. I will say one more thing and then I'll leave it. I think we need clarification on what we're voting on, because I read the brief on Monday morning in the wee hours of the morning, and the assembly received another version on the email at 10:25 a.m. I have not had a chance, because I've been working all day, so I haven't even had a chance to read it. Are we, because if we say, well, we're voting on the one that was in the packet, but Mr. Ken, he's probably going to want to file the one that's emailed. So this one hasn't even been to the public yet. It just feels really uncomfortable logistically to sign on to that.
JJ?
And in my phone call with Ken this afternoon, it's been updated again. There's been another paragraph added from the one that was emailed out this morning. Like, that's what this process looks like. It's a rush to the finish to get everyone on and the group together. And it doesn't neatly line up with the municipal process. We're a slow process, as you all may have seen in the past currently, and it's clunky when it comes to jumping on things like this that really matter for our community. And so my next question will be for John. If we do need to do some form for procurement, well, I guess there's no procurement. It's a pro bono. It's a donation of time, some sort of engagement letter. Do you have time tomorrow to get that going?
I would say the first thing tomorrow morning in my office will be to contact Ken, and I'd actually ask him to draft some sort of engagement, a letter, engagement agreement, and I can review. But understanding that it's pro bono work, and if that's the direction I'm getting from the assembly, that they would like him to represent the city, I would try to get that engagement agreement signed tomorrow.
Thank you. That helps me see this with more clarity. And this is a hard one, because are we supporting an idea, or are we voting on a plan, on a document? And absolutely, if we were tonight, right now, voting on an idea, absolutely. Yes, with an exclamation point from me. But I don't think that's what we're voting on. I think we're voting on signing a piece of paper. And the words on that piece of paper matter. And having reviewed those words matter. And from an outside group, if it was a piece of paper that John writes up, I'm confident and trust that there's an internal process and follow through, and those words are great. These are someone's outside words. And I can't quite bring myself, with the risk and those great words that Chris spoke, with my risk level, and voting on an idea of someone's outside words, that doesn't meet my threshold. So on this motion, I'm gonna have to say no.
Scott?
More halibuts thrown away than all the halibut mortgages put together. We need to stand with Kodiak and Cordova.
Tim?
I think, there's more than one option about voting this thing down too. I mean, we can table it, we can postpone it, we can do any number of things with this. So with this particular motion, I don't think we need to divide ourselves up and vote in such a way that we're not speaking with one voice, or that we end up voting something down. So I didn't hear anybody here who thinks that this is not a very important issue. But having said that, any legal documents that we sign on to are reviewed by our attorney, and then we get their advice as to whether or not we're good to go or not. And we're not there at this point in time. And so, if postponing this, tabling this, I mean, those are options that can keep us from doing this. And we did speak about an idea. We voted on an idea. We signed on a resolution. We were unanimous in that. We have spoken as a community as to the importance of it. Does it have the same legal weight as an amicus brief? Well, at this point in time, I'm not sure which one we're signing. So, would be signing. So, I think at this point in time, on the advice of our counsel that we heard tonight, a resolution is probably the best option.
Tor?
Yeah, just a quick point on this. So if this doesn't pass, the resolution, this never happened. And so the resolution still has a unanimous vote. So I'm not particularly concerned about showing a divided front, because if it doesn't pass, it didn't happen. And I don't think there's any doubt that if it passes on a divided vote, that it will have any less effect, because I think the discussion we're having is one that I'm sure is taking place in councils and boardrooms across Alaska. And everybody knows, I don't see how the court would take into account at all what the vote count was. So it doesn't really scare me. And again, I think I'm kind of around here. I think there's a pretty good chance we're just going to go with the resolution. And I think having this vote doesn't reduce that effect one iota.
Anything further on the motion? Sarah?
All right, the motion before you is for the city and borough of Sitka to sign on the amicus brief regarding halibut bycatch. Mayor Eisenbeiß,
No.
Mr. Christensen,
Yes.
Ms. Carlson,
No.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
No.
Mr. Yestad,
Yes.
Mr. Mosier.
No.
Okay, the motion fails 4-3.
Thank you. It is past the top of the hour. We'll go ahead and take a brief recess, and assembly, please be seated when you're ready to continue. All right, thank you, Assembly. We'll jump back into our agenda tonight with item F.
I move to approve ordinance 2024-15 on second and final reading, authorizing the lease of Alaska Tideline Survey number 580 to Evergreen Properties LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 24-15. Is there any public comment? Assembly deliberation? Sarah?
All right, on the motion to approve ordinance 2024-15 on second and final reading, Ms. Carlson,
Yes.
Mr. Yested,
Yes.
Mr. Celine,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mayor Eisenbais,
Yes.
Mr. Pike,
Yes.
and Mr. Christensen.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. That'll bring us to item G tonight. This is an action plan for the Tourism Task Force recommendations. Before we begin this item, we do have some words of advice from our attorney. Michael, if you're on the line, if you could kind of brief the rest of the assembly on what we had talked about earlier in the evening.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, members of the Assembly. I think that I'd like a little more time to review this issue vis-a-vis recent events. And so I spoke to the mayor about that, and he prudently suggested perhaps a postponement was in order. So I think that would be a good action on this, at least at this time, until we have further analysis to provide you with.
And Michael, the analysis you're talking about is a potential conflict with a potential ballot initiative, correct? That we're not, the task force recommendations themselves don't conflict, but we want to make sure that we're moving ahead in an orderly manner with that, correct?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, please.
I think we want to examine legal issues in a global sense with respect to this issue of cruise ships.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So do you need a motion to postpone?
We would need a motion to postpone if that was the Assembly's desire.
Yeah, I make a motion to postpone this item until our council can make a recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to postpone the action plan with the Tourist Task Force recommendations until legal counsel has had an opportunity to review. Is there any public comment?
Good evening. My name is Richard Ween. I'm not an attorney, but I play one here at the Assembly. I think that the task force went through 17 meetings, 17 public, all this, all of that. They had another joint meeting. They made their mind up and I don't see how the initiative would necessarily interact with that per se, because within the task force, it doesn't define a number. And the initiative defines a number. So I don't know what legal issues are related to this postponement. I think that it would be healthy to talk about this issue, but to all of a sudden make it into a legal kerfuffle, I think is one bridge too far. So I suggest not following counsel and discuss this issue. And if you make a motion and can't decide on something, that's one thing. But to just totally pull it off, I think is a completely different thing. So I rest my case.
Good evening, Assembly. I am Rachel Roy. I am with Visit Sitka, and I just wanted to give one item to consider is the tourism best management practices. There was a lot of really great
And
momentum.
the motion,
Ooh.
the comments have to be germane to the motion on postponement.
Right, to postpone. I am talking
Okay,
about that.
thank you.
Is that there was a lot of really great momentum from the task force work, having businesses on board and having reviewed it with the idea that in April, when the recommendations were presented to the assembly, that it could be that a process could happen, that we could have a trial run of it this summer. And I just worry that if it waits too long, it might not be able to happen. But I think there's a really cool opportunity to let some of those recommendations come through and not wait too long. But I just wanted to put that food for thought. Thank you.
Any other comments on postponement of the recommendations?
Hi, I'm Claudia Lassess, and I'm just wanted to mention that if you postpone, then there won't be a chance for discussion about the e-bikes and some other issues that I think are germane to the overall picture. So it might be worth a discussion. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Austin Cranford. I'm also against the postponement. As mentioned by other members of the public, there's traffic, there's e-bikes, there's pollution, buses, electric, gasoline, whatever. There are plenty of other topics that were brought up within the Tourism Task Force memo that can be dealt with, even if you want to exclude a section due to upcoming legal matters. Thank you.
Anyone else on the postponement of accepting the task force recommendations? Back to the assembly for deliberation. Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comments. And my thought on this is that we should follow our legal counsel. We did just engage on a more official level our services with Mr. Gotti. He's requested time to review. I understand the issue with timing, and that is very important. But I don't want to start splitting this up until he gets a chance to review it and then brings it back to us. I don't think it's going to take all that long, because when we start enacting these things, I want them to do them. I want to start running with them. And I don't want to run with things with a cloud over my head of whether things might be changed or what have you. So, and another thing to point out too is when we, as a city, we have insurance that helps coverage with lawsuits and such. And we are allowed to go against the advice of our attorney. We're free to do that all we want. But there is another thing that needs to be pointed out is when we do not heed the advice of our legal counsel, and it turns out that person was right, and we get sued, there is a chance that our insurance won't cover it. So they'll be on the hook for a lot of money. So it's more prudent and wise to follow the advice. I mean, if he had said something that just sounded outrageous, that'd be another story. He just said he wanted to take a look at it. I think that's reasonable and worth the wait.
Anything else from the assembly? Sarah, on the postponement?
All right, the motion is before you is to postpone this item until legal counsel has an opportunity to review and make a recommendation. Mr. Pike?
Yes.
Mr. Mosier?
Yes.
Mayor Eisenbeis?
Yes.
Mr. Celine?
No.
Ms. Carlson?
Yeah.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
And Mr. Yestad?
No.
The motion passes 5-2 to postpone.
Thank you. That would bring us to persons to be heard. This is public participation for any item on or off tonight's agenda, not to exceed 3 minutes for any individual.
Hi, I'm Claudia Lassess, and I just wanted to mention as president of Small Town Soul that there is a hope that we can come to some common good agreement and that there would be no litigation of any sort, so that we wouldn't have anything to fear and that we would come to some, reasonable agreements on things for our community and just allow the community to have a vote. So thank you.
Good evening, my name is Shirley Rowland.
Button on the bottom of the microphone, please.
Push the button, here. Oh, the other one. Oh, here, I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm here because I wanted to talk to you about the parking downtown and giving people tickets that work downtown because the road's closed. I think $25 is kind of stiff. I went to the beauty shop the other day and she said, everybody's parking down here now and there's no place to park. And we're all getting tickets. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what she said. And I just think it would make the people of Sitka, the residents of Sitka, and I've been a resident here for 66 years. I'm 88 years old. And I personally think that 400 cars come for lunch out of Search. And they go directly home or out the road to eat instead of coming downtown because the road is closed. And I took many, many pictures and sometimes it's busy in the middle of the road, but they all walk on the sidewalks. It's really funny. I saw a picture in tonight's paper and I was shocked because I've never seen them that crowded. And so I'm unhappy about that. I think that Max Sudoff coming off the bridge, that you should go down Main Street and the other road closed off because it's 2 blocks down there and completely close that off. So that's mine, and a lot of people agree with me. They say that they're going to put it in a petition, and so they shop then too. And there's places to park and not everybody's screaming about the roads being closed. They don't close them in Juneau. We're not Juneau. Anyway, I hear it's in the scope that you're going to make downtown one way. And I went through that, and I'm sure he has too. They closed off Catlean, made it one way for like 2 weeks, I think. Everybody screamed bloody murder. And they're starting to talk about it now, and I'm sure there's going to be a petition out for it. So we'll see. And a lot of the residents also do not like the one-way side streets. There's never been any accidents that I know of in the last 66 years I've been here. And I think it's wrong. You have to go up and around and over back. And then it's worse when the roads are closed. You're stuck. And I think it's wrong. So there's a lot of complaining going on, and you got to remember there's only 8,500 residents that live here, but they want to be comfortable. And I agree with them. I'm not telling you or anybody else that you have to say how many people can come here. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Ween, and I am not here as the Assembly Attorney, which I play on Assembly days. I am here as a citizen. And one of the things I do know about the attorney is that he, the attorney, or she, the attorney, cannot legislate. Sometimes when opinions are given, it is in de facto a legislation, because there's a lot of power there. And I remember Mr. Hansen saying this, well, I'm not trying to sway the judgment, I'm just trying to give you an opinion. So I think that you can't make decisions based upon going against legal advice. Sometimes when you do the right thing, it's extra legal because it is the right thing. And so with the amicus brief, for example, I thought there was undue fear generated from this, undue fear about what will happen if we get caught up in the federal court, undue fear about the cost of all of this. And part of the thing that struck me is that Ken, I wish I knew his last name. I feel I want to say Barbie after that, but Ken could have been gotten on the horn. And I can almost guarantee you he would have been happy to speak here to give opinion as to what his role would be within the amicus brief. I think this is far more important than you actually realize. And I'm sorry that, kind of those outside issues led you to do that. And it's not even, it was Kodiak signed on, Cordova signed on, and you have other municipalities. And I think that, again, Sitka needed to make the stand. And again, postponing issues, it'll be interesting to see and hear what Mr. Gaddy has to say in review of these things that would have made such a big difference that we couldn't speak about this tonight. Off the subject in 36 seconds is that the Kansas Attorney General, Chris Kobach, is suing Pfizer for problems with the vaccine. And it's a 179-page brief, and I invite you to read it. If you want, contact me and I'll send it to you. It is very nicely written. The important thing is that other states are going to sign on. And if they are successful, because it has to do with a consumer issue, then this will trickle down to places like Search and their liability.
Good evening. My name is Austin Cranford. I wanted to speak briefly on item G and item E. We heard a lot about fear, insurance, liability. Regarding liability, no one's ever been sued for an amicus brief. I looked. There's not a history of it ever happening, ever. Millions are filed every year. Supreme Court, district court, local courts, state courts, doesn't matter. So we have a fear that something might trickle down to the city that's never happened. We would be the first if something actually happened. We hear about insurance if we go against legal counsel, but then the city doesn't use their insurance. We just had the cybersecurity incident and your own internal memos. Y'all declined to use insurance because it would raise our copays or liability or however, whatever it is. Anyway, I think it's a disgrace that the Assembly voted down item E. We have big corporation coming through, or corporations, I should say, coming through, catching up all the fish, selling it off, pennies on the dollar, especially last year. And instead of jumping on this and the city putting their foot down, they decided that we're going to look a gift horse in a mouth. You had a lawyer that said he would do it for free, pro bono. And it was like, oh, we don't trust him. It's like, well, let's talk about trust and fear real quick. If the fear was a lawsuit and the issue was trust, then there's several people I could think of within the city that have a higher fear of a lawsuit or have bigger trust issues for the city. Anyway, I don't think it should have been voted down 4-3. It's clear that the Assembly doesn't care about the sustainability of our industries. In 10, 20, 30, 40 years, if it even lasts that long, when all the halibut are gone because we didn't put our foot down and stop this when we could, I hope y'all can look the younger generations, granddaughters, great-granddaughters, and say, yeah, the reason the fish aren't here is because we didn't stop it when we could have. Thank you.
Anyone else this evening under persons to be heard? Seeing none, that'll bring us to reports. My only report this evening, Chairman Woodmark gave most of the report for me, but there was an item that I wasn't able to catch on Tribal Council's agenda about the Crescent Park rehabilitation. That's why he said that he would get with his people and have it sent to our people so that we can see this, with the tribe's request. So as soon as Sarah has that, I'm sure she'll forward it on to us. John, any report this evening?
Small report, just spent a lot of time these past 2 weeks working with the school district on the mechanics behind the building maintenance transfer. Still working on an MOU for the maintenance agreement, but I believe we're very close to the finish line on getting the employees transferred into CBS employment.
Thank you. Michael, as our attorney, any report this evening? It appears he did not make it this far. Liaison representatives. JJ?
Health Needs and Human Services Committee voted in their goals and priorities for the year. Childcare, public transportation, and elder care are what they will be working on.
Any other liaison reports this evening? Sarah, a report?
Looking for my board commission committee vacancy list. Well, we have a number of openings. So I'll leave it at that. If you have any possible interest, contact our office and we will go over those vacancies with you. Our office is gearing up for the municipal election. The first date of file is Monday, July 15th. The last date of file is Friday, August 2nd. To be filled in the election, we have a mayoral seat and 2 assembly member seats. And then on the school board, we have 2 seats. So that will be just a few weeks away.
Thank you. Any other reports this evening? Seeing none, that would bring us to adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all for your time this evening.